kid who swings a golf club like a dream. I'd like to try to qualify him for the U.S. Amateurs.
Coming to Apple TV Plus.
What's your name?
I'm not into older guys, but I'm flattered.
A new comedy series, Stick.
I don't want to go on this trip.
Your mouth's saying one thing, but those eyes are saying something else.
From the home of Ted Lasso.
This is your shot at redemption? This is your mulligan?
Owen Wilson.
This game takes and it takes. The game's finally giving me something back.
Stick.
You know Arnold Palmer?
Iced tea, lemonade, mix it.
I'm missing a nap for this.
Streaming June 4th on Apple TV Plus.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Sports are all about teamwork, and so is insurance. Whether you need an in-person or digital assist, State Farm is there to help you choose the right coverage for your home, car, and more. Get a game plan that helps fit your life and talk to State Farm today. State Farm with the assist. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability and eligibility vary by state.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. Joining me on the show today is Dre from Dre Area Sports, and we have to talk about a shocking move the San Francisco 49ers made today, and that is trading for Philadelphia Eagles edge rusher Bryce Huff. It shocked me, but I think the entire fan base can collectively say it's a thumbs-up move for San Francisco. Dre, how you doing? What was your instant reaction to the San Francisco 49ers trading for Bryce Huff today?
My instant reaction was, hell fucking yeah. I was at work and I was like, holy crap, you guys, Niners just got Bryce Huff. And they're looking at me like, what?
Who's
like,
that?
Dude, they got Bryce Huff. And a buddy of mine was like, isn't he like a defensive back? No. He is an edge rusher that is one of the premier edge rushers in the league, especially if you go back to 2023. So, no, this is a huge get for San Francisco.
Yeah, my instant reaction was like, I had the double take. I was like, wait, what's happening? Like, oh, okay. I didn't know San Francisco was in the business of making moves on May 30th. You re-signed Brock Purdy, you re-signed Fred Warner, you re-signed George Kittle, and now I guess one true day into the OTAs, you go and get what is probably one of the better edge rushers on the market still, which is a massive get for them. Obviously, we'll dive into more of that here, but I want to let the viewers know to like, share, and subscribe to the show on the audio podcasting platforms. Give us that 5-star review, and let's push back on the narrative, Dre. When there was a ton of people saying if they pay Brock Purdy, they can't afford to trade for a big-name player. They can't afford to sign a big-name player to a massive contract.
Oh,
and
this narrative.
like San Francisco said, you are full of crap because those people look
absolutely
entirely dumb on this May 30th edition of the show. Like that is they are aggressive. They're going for it. It doesn't matter who it is. Like they are going to find a way to add valuable pieces to the roster. And the idea that having to pay Brock Purdy $265 million would hamstring them is entirely false.
It's entirely false. I mean, look, we already know that, you know, the Niners had somewhere between 52 and 53 million in salary cap space, right? So we knew that that had already existed after they had signed Fred Warner. So at that point, it's like, hey, look, they have money to spend. They're under the salary cap. So, I mean, like, it's not like they're hamstrung by Brock Purdy's contract whatsoever. I think they're only paying him somewhere close to like $9 million this season anyway. So they set themselves up to be more flexible in acquiring talent. And that was one of the things that Brock Purdy wanted out of his contract was he wanted to be able to have a contract that allowed San Francisco to bring in more talent. And that's exactly what they did today in acquiring Bryce Huff. And we know now that Bryce Huff is already reworking his contract to make this deal work, which means that he wants to come to San Francisco. He wants to work and play under Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan. So he wants to be here, and that's a good thing for San Francisco.
Yeah, the immediate reaction from us was like, this is awesome. But even Bryce Huff got in on the action, immediately posting on his Instagram story, kind of like deuces to Philadelphia, like, thank God I'm out of here. But also immediately posting a picture of him with the New York Jets, which is where he worked with Saleh the past couple years. So you can tell he's excited to be back with Robert Saleh. And it's funny where the last couple of years you had Steve Wilks, you had Nick Sorensen, two guys that really weren't going to bring in the big name free agent. And while you can certainly say Bryce Huff isn't the biggest guy in the market, he's not TJ Watt, he's not Trey Hendrickson, he ain't Nick Bosa, right? But the allure of Robert Saleh is already kind of showing its true colors, where you see what he did in the draft. Like 7 of the 11 picks they took were all defensive players. The free agency was mostly special teams stuff with Brant Boyer, but you're seeing the impact Saleh is already making. And you can honestly say, had this team not hired Saleh, they're not acquiring Bryce Huff today. And that, to me, is a big win for San Francisco.
I think so. I mean, I think because Saleh is here, he was able to communicate with Bryce Huff about, hey, man, we'd love to have you here. This is kind of what we're looking at in order to get you here. And here's a guy that, I mean, he's like the 7th. They have 7 defensive ends on that team pretty much. And so, look, he's like, look, instead of me having to battle my way through all these guys after we just won the Super Bowl, I'd rather just go there and play with you and, you know, essentially be a day one starter on this 49ers defense. I mean, he gives the Niners so much flexibility. And so this is such a win-win for both, for Huff and for the Niners. I'm super excited to see what Saleh can do to bring this guy back to his 2023 form.
Well, the great thing about this is that I don't know if it was Jeremy Fowler of ESPN or Field Yates of ESPN, but one of them said that San Francisco had been talking to Philadelphia, trying to acquire Bryce Huff throughout free agency. So they've been trying to get this deal done for a while now, and I don't know if what that means or what that proves. Maybe it's the proactivity of the front office trying to get things done sooner this offseason, but usually you aren't able to acquire players of Bryce Huff's potential this late into the offseason. Usually you're seeing guys getting traded for during free agency. People want to have their rosters kind of put together before the draft to give them more of an identity for the draft, whereas San Francisco said, we're going to go out there, use every single one of our draft picks, bring in 11 players, and then still have the ability to go out there and acquire a player like Bryce Huff. But I do think we have to get into why we both like this deal. And the first thing for me is that I think it's about the cost of what it took to get Bryce Huff, because San Francisco didn't trade a first-round pick or a second-round pick or a third-round pick. The report is San Francisco traded away a day 3 pick to acquire Bryce Huff from Philadelphia. Now that can be round 7, that can be round 6, that can be round 5, that can be round 4. It certainly does feel like that the Niners didn't pay too highly for a player like Bryce Huff, and it really depends on the pick, because if San Francisco, let's say it's trading away a 5th-round pick for Bryce Huff, they're going to get that back during the draft pick compensation that comes and goes during next offseason. So when they have guys leaving free agency, Bryce Huff could very well be that free pickup for them this late into the offseason, which kind of tells you that the only thing they're really spending on Bryce Huff is money. It's simply just money. Now, I'm hoping it's a round 5 compensation pick, but they're really just paying for a player like Bryce Huff, which put things into a much better context when you're acquiring players this late into free agency, because Philadelphia is paying $9 million of Bryce Huff's $17 million that are guaranteed to him, and San Francisco is only paying roughly $8 million. So they're essentially cutting that contract in half and saying, you get a half and you get a half. And the great thing about this is, if Bryce Huff is a bust, they can wipe their hands and say, look, there's an out in that contract after this season, but if he's good, I think he'll have like a $17 million cap hit again next year. Maybe it's $21 million dead cap. They'll rework that. They'll figure things out with him, and they can hopefully have a speed rusher on the roster for a heck of a lot cheaper going forward. So when you heard day 3 pick for Bryce Huff, it kind of felt like if he can reach that potential of being, your number 3 guy, your elite 3rd-round rusher or third down rusher, this is kind of a steal for San Francisco this late into the offseason.
Absolutely, it's a steal. Sorry, I have a guy with a weed whacker like right outside my room here, so I know it's super loud. I don't know if you can hear it or not. I was just
You
like,
said, "Hey, shut up!"
It's like, I was like, oh my gosh. No, this is definitely a steal for San Francisco. I mean, the fact that you're getting a guy who's only 27 years old, had 10 sacks in 2023 under Robert Saleh. This guy was a premier pass rusher in 2023, went to the Eagles, didn't work out. Never really worked out with their scheme, with their fit. They had a lot of guys there as well. You had Josh Sweat. You had a whole bunch of guys there. And so he kind of fell out of the rotation, had some injuries as well. So it overall just was not a very good fit for Bryce Huff. I don't think he really wanted to be there. And so San Francisco, which I agree with you, have been in communication with the Eagles about this player, and they were able to get this deal done. And now it gives San Francisco the flexibility to say, hey, Mykel Williams, we want you to go out there and dominate and be your the best player you can be. But now we have a guy in Bryce Huff that will allow you to kind of mature into your position and learn the game, as opposed to saying, hey, it's you and Bosa, you guys got to figure it out. No, now you have a premier pass rusher in Bryce Huff that could spell Mykel Williams or allow you to move Williams to the interior on certain downs and to really give you that kind of NASCAR package. If you have Huff, Bosa, and Williams out there, now you have a real pass rushing threat with three huge guys or three pass rushing guys coming at you. So I think this is so cool that the Niners were able to get this done. But at the same time, I think what it does is it sends a message to the league saying, hey, guess what? I know you thought we were kind of rebuilding. I know you thought we had a lot of holes on defense. Guess what? We just got Bryce Huff, and we're not done yet. I still think they're going to acquire more players. Not a whole lot more, but I still think they're looking to make a few more moves going into the next round of OTAs.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Well, I wouldn't say that, San Francisco's going to go out there and trade, for more players. I do think it signifies that any inkling we got of a rebuild is false. And San Francisco does not view 2025 as a stepping stone season. They view this as an all-in type year. Now, all-in may look different than previous years, but I think if San Francisco, going back to the whole Brock Purdy conversation and contract stuff, I never got the thought that they were going to be complacent and say, yep, this is the roster. They've been moving pieces around. They released Mitch Wishnowsky a couple days ago. There's rumors that they could be signing a veteran receiver. You just never know. And San Francisco is very much trying to add pieces to round out their roster. But the one thing I really love about acquiring Bryce Huff is that, yes, it gives you, that number 2, number 3 guy, but it also gives San Francisco's defense what they haven't had maybe since D Ford.
Yes,
Samson Ebukam really wasn't this. Charles Omenihu could kind of mix and match and do this stuff.
Ebukam was good. I loved Ebukam.
Yeah, he was fine, but more so in the archetype of that speed rusher, right?
Yeah.
Ebukam is that kind of B- player that really doesn't have the traits you love. He's fine. I'll give you 7.5 sacks a year, but if you can have that speed rusher opposite Nick Bosa, it opens things up for your defense. It gives your defense kind of some firepower it hasn't had in previous years. And hopefully, if you can get into the right third down situations, he's on your outside opposite Bosa, Alfred Collins, and Mykel Williams. It opens up another path to the quarterback where we all walked into this year saying, you love Nick Bosa. You are hoping to love Mykel Williams. He has high potential. But then there's Sam O, then there's Yetur Gross-Matos, and it's like, well, you like those players, but those are guys you'd rather be your 4th or 5th options. Now those guys do become your 4th and 5th options. Mm-hmm. It opens up room to add in that kind of number 3 edge rusher or the kind of your 2A to Mykel Williams' 2B in year 1. Now you can mix and match with where you have Mykel Williams who's coming in. He's big, he's strong, he's sturdy, he's dense, he wants to run through offensive tackles and guards. Now you have the guy that can go around the offensive tackles and the offensive guards, get to the quarterback, and just give you something almost it's almost like splitting an elite player in two, where you have Mykel who has the power, now you have Bryce Huff who has the speed, and that really does play in a wide 9 defense like Robert Saleh's.
Absolutely, and when you look at the numbers that Bryce Huff had put up in New York under Robert Saleh, we know of course we talk about his 10 sacks, right?
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Let me see. I have it right here. What was that?
I don't know.
Do you hear that?
I feel like you're watching Star Trek back there or something.
Oh, sorry. It was
Reading Rainbow's playing or something.
It was an ad playing on one of my screens. I was like, whoa, what the heck? Sorry about that. But no, he had 19 tackles. He had 29 total tackles going along with that, with those 10 sacks. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge difference maker. And I agree. This is probably the best edge rushing pass rusher we've had since D Ford. And we're getting him at a fraction of the price. Now, we haven't seen the final figures yet of what we're we paying this guy.
Right.
And we don't know if it's a multi-year deal. I don't think that it is. It's probably just the rest of the season, and then we kind of figure it out from there.
I think it can be, but it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. It could be a mutual option.
Yeah. He's gone.
If he sucks, he's gone. And look, I would rather have Bryce Huff than Leonard Floyd at this point. Huff is younger at 27 years old. And that's the thing, too, is that you're not getting a guy who's in his 30s, 31, 32, who's past his prime. No, this guy's 27 years old. This guy's in his prime. And so I'm super excited about this on the flexibility and what it brings to San Francisco on the defensive side. I still think, like I said earlier, it leaves room open, bring in more players. A veteran receiver, I think, is definitely something that they should consider. I have a video about that over on my channel. Go ahead and check that out. But
what a segue.
But I really do, because I'm worried with Pearsall already having a hamstring injury. It's kind of like, oh boy, now he's already hurt. Let's hope it doesn't linger on going into mini camp. So no, this is an absolute no-brainer of a trade. If you're trading a late day 3 pick for Bryce Huff, that's a no-brainer. That's let's make this trade happen. I don't care. This is perfect. Let's do this. And like I said, they needed some defensive. They needed depth at the defensive end position, because without him, you have Mykel Williams, you have Nick Bosa, and then who do you have? You have Sam O, Robert Beal, who's never going to be the guy you want him to be. I mean, maybe he will this year, but we've been saying that every single season, just like we said it with Drake Jackson. And look what they did with Drake Jackson. They cut him. They're like, all right, we're going to cut our losses here, dude. It's not going to work out. So instead of waiting around for these guys to do something, they said, hey, look, let's go out and get a guy that we know who is a for sure thing in Robert Saleh's system, and they did that with Bryce Huff.
Well, you mentioned Leonard Floyd, and I think it's a good point, because when San Francisco cut Leonard Floyd this offseason, he immediately signed for $10 million with the Falcons. And it was like, that's a weird, perplexing move. I don't understand why San Francisco cut him. I get the production really wasn't what you wanted it to be in his only year in San Francisco. But he was that kind of baseline player. You said, hey, he at least raises your floor. The difference is Bryce Huff, while there is a lower floor to him, there's a much higher ceiling for a player like Bryce Huff and Leonard Floyd, and they're getting him for $2 million cheaper. So you are, in a way, getting a cheaper, higher ceiling, albeit lower floor player compared to Leonard Floyd. And on top of that, I was thinking about this, kind of in the context of the NFL draft, right? We talked long and hard about which edge rusher, which defensive lineman should San Francisco take in that first round. And obviously San Francisco took Mykel Williams, but a lot of people wanted, Mike Green and James Pierce Jr. And a lot of those guys had red flags. Now, James Pierce Jr., funny enough, who a lot of people wanted, ended up having the Falcons trade a future first-round draft pick for him late in the first round. And if you're San Francisco sitting back like, just and it may not be a one-for-one comparison, but would you rather be Atlanta, who signed Leonard Floyd and traded the future first-round draft pick for James Pierce Jr., who has some red flags, has some, does he love football stuff, has some character concerns, or would you rather draft Mykel Williams, who has a much higher floor, maybe a lower ceiling compared to other guys in the draft, but has a much higher floor, and they go trade a 5th-round pick or a 4th-round pick for Bryce Huff, who has already had success in Robert Saleh's system, and is only going to cost you $8 million and no true future draft pick compensation, in which you're probably going to get that pick back once the comp picks come in next offseason.
No, absolutely. I would definitely go with this scenario that we're in now because, look, Leonard Floyd is an older player. Wasn't really that speed rusher anymore. He's a long, kind of lanky guy, and so he's not going to really just bull rush you and move you off the line. I thought he had a good season last season, but kind of like what Kawachipto was saying, he wasn't really an impact. And he had 8 sacks, very spread out throughout the season.
It's a bunch of empty calories with Leonard Floyd.
And you know what? Even when they signed him, I mean, look, before they signed Leonard Floyd, a bunch of us were talking about oh man, what if they go after Danielle Hunter or all these big names? And this had Leonard Floyd. I thought that was a really safe signing. Hey, look, he doesn't get hurt. He plays in a lot of games. We don't have to worry about that. Hey, it is, but when you sign a guy and your first thing is, dude, the guy plays in a lot of games. You're like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that and all, but I mean, I don't know. And to me, he wasn't really a great scheme fit. Wasn't great against the run. Didn't set the edge great against the run. I think he's a guy that's better off on a team that has multiple options on the defensive line and allows him to rotate in and out and bring him in on better scenarios for him and his skill set. So I think that's why going to Atlanta is going to help out. And then not only that, but they signed Leonard Floyd, and then they went and traded for. They traded and drafted James Pierce Jr., which is basically like the younger version of Leonard Floyd. They're both long and lanky and rely on their speed. So that was interesting. But still, I would rather be where we're at now with Bryce Huff and Mykel Williams, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think it's a good transition because Bobo, who is always the center point of negativity on our channel, says, and look, we love Bobo so much, but they said he did nothing, that meaning Bryce Huff, for Philadelphia last year. And I think a lot of people need to know this, that Bryce Huff is not going to be an every down player for you. It's not his play style. He'll be a third down player, mostly in pass rushing sets. He can play on first down. He can play on third down, but you don't want him playing on 2nd and 6. You don't want him in there on 3rd and 2. You want Bryce Huff hopefully in there on your 3rd and 8s, your 1st and 10s in very specific situations. And you don't mind paying nearly $8 million for a player if he can bring down the quarterback 8+ times a year and make your defense more dangerous. But I think the good thing about this is because a lot can be made of his struggles in Philadelphia, but it was clear as day. After they brought in Vic Fangio, he didn't want to be there. Vic Fangio didn't want him there. He was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl. There was not a fit for him in Philadelphia after they brought in Vic Fangio, and it's very obvious that you putting up the deuces on your Instagram the very first chance you get is like, thank God I'm out of here. And open your arms, Robert Saleh, and welcome me into them because I cannot wait to get back into your defense where I know in 2023 I was, and I'm not kidding here, in 481 total snaps, Bryce Huff had 67 pressures and a 21.8 pressure rate. That ranked first in the NFL over TJ Watt, over Nick Bosa, over your Myles Garrett or Trey Hendricksons. Most other guys you'd say, yeah, that's a no-brainer pickup for you. Bryce Huff in Robert Saleh's defense with the Jets just 2 years ago was arguably one of the best edge rushers in football with 10+ sacks. You're hoping he can become that player once again where you can see a clear-cut downgrade in Philadelphia last year, under 300 snaps, only 23 pressures, and under 13% pressure rate, and 2.5 sacks. He just didn't fit what they wanted to do out there in Philadelphia. Now, being in Robert Saleh's defense, back in San Francisco, it's very hard to find perfect fits for your defense, and there is a path where this thing does not work out for them, and he just is that bust again. But if you point to the history of Huff in Saleh's defense, this may be one of the best possible fits you can find in the entire free agent class.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, this is a guy that wants to play for Saleh. Saleh wants him here. So this is an absolute great acquisition for San Francisco. And to kind of touch on what Benali was saying, about the whole Joey Bosa thing, yeah. I was for Bosa as long as it wasn't $10 million. It had to be, somewhat reasonable, a hometown discount for a guy who's relatively hurt every single season. He's hurt right now. His calf is hurt. I'm like, oh my God, this guy. So look, to me, Joey Bosa would have been a good acquisition if he is your rotational piece, kind of like what Bryce Huff is going to be. If he's your only defensive end opposite Nick Bosa, then you got a problem. That's not going to get it done.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, mainly myself as well, that wanted Joey Bosa, but they wanted him under that double-digit figure.
Yeah.
And you see Bosa get like $11, $12 billion, and we all said, whoa. Never mind, what's the plan? And even myself, I questioned, okay, so you're going to cut Leonard Floyd, you're going to draft Mykel Williams, and even leaving the draft, we all said you didn't get another edge rusher. Where's the other guy? You didn't want that 5th-round guy, that 4th-round guy to round out your depth piece, and now you get Bryce Huff, who you do know if he can reach that potential is probably going to give you 7+ sacks this year. Be a 3rd down guy for you. He may not reach that 2023 level again, but don't forget, he was not an original Robert Saleh pick with the Jets. He was drafted in 2020. Saleh was not there yet. He was still in San Francisco. Saleh saw something in him and said, there's something special there. I can make some chicken salad out of what the Jets left me before I got here. And I think a lot of Niner fans, overwhelmingly, they've been pretty positive about the move. But I think one of the most important pieces of having the Bryce Huff conversation is the impact he will have on a player like Mykel Williams. Mm-hmm. You kind of already hit at it earlier, Dre, when you said they can now move Mykel Williams inside on 3rd downs, which we already assumed was the thought process. He was one of the few 3-down players of the edge rushing class. Now you have even more reason to move him inside where you can have Samo out there, you can have Yetur Gross-Matos, and you can say, yeah, that's cool and all, but now you add in Bryce Huff, it makes that group much more dangerous. The NASCAR package becomes a weapon again for Robert Saleh's defense. And if you look at how many 3rd down snaps Huff played with the Jets in 2023, his near 70 pressure season, he played 82% of the Jets' 3rd down snaps in 2023. That's when he had, near 22% pressure rate, but he almost never plays at a 30% clip on early downs. So you very much, while you're not getting an A-plus player, you're more so getting I guess you can say a more complete puzzle. You're getting more pieces to your puzzle. You're getting a clearer picture as to how San Francisco's defensive line is going to work, and it becomes more dangerous, it becomes nasty, and you now have roughly 3 guys at edge and on the interior on almost any given down play that can get to the quarterback at a pretty consistent basis, which you didn't really have at all coming into the year and didn't have it all last year whatsoever.
Look at the super chat.
I see it. Who is this? Who is Errol Flynn? Who is that?
Here, I got him right here. I just shared screen.
Tommy. Right,
and then you got the overlay, but there he is.
Oh my goodness. I mean, hey, that's a handsome man, Tommy.
That's a good-looking guy. No.
That's a handsome man. Woo. I like it. It is my 1-year wedding anniversary tomorrow. I'm going to pull up on my wife saying, hey, Tommy said I look like Errol Flynn. What do you think about that, babe? And she's going to say, get the hell out of my face. We're getting a divorce now. Thank you, Tommy, for the super chat, though. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
But no, I'm stuck on Errol Flynn. Like we've been saying this whole time, this is only going to benefit San Francisco. I mean, obviously, look, there's a health issue, making sure everyone stays healthy, obviously. But as long as that is in play, dude, this is great. And like Joey Bosa, he's going to get almost $15 million. When I saw that, I was like, that's it. Go. No, thank you.
No
I don't
way.
want you for that much money. I'm surprised the Bills paid that much money. They were like, oh, we just want to get a pass rush in here and help Josh Allen win a Super Bowl.
The Bills are spending like San Francisco was doing during 2022 and 2023. I see a hand. Who is that?
Yeah, that's my son.
Okay. He said, I like Bryce Huff a lot.
Yeah, he's like, I want Bryce Huff. No,
I advocate.
Absolutely. No, this is a great move for San Francisco. And it again makes them more of a threat. They're more competitive now with him. I like it a lot. And, some people were saying, they should go out and try and get like Justin Simmons or whatever. The problem is that you still got Jair Brown. You still got Malik Mustafa, who's going to be there. And so, I think the idea is that, like, do we get one of these guys and then kind of block the other if they outplay them? Who knows? But at least it provides competition, because everyone keeps saying, well, Jason Pinnock, he's going to be the safety while Mustafa's out. It's like, is that really the option you want to go with? Or are you saying, you know what, let's get in Justin Simmons and let's just figure things out once Mustafa comes back?
Well, that's actually a good point, because it furthers why this move makes a lot of sense, is that it doesn't block anybody from producing. And look, I do think Jason Pinnock will be this team's safety at a certain point this year. He got guaranteed money for a reason. Yeah. But acquiring Bryce Huff does not block the progression that Mykel Williams can make in year one.
I think you were going to say Malik Mustafa. I was like, what?
No.
It shouldn't affect his position.
Yeah, like getting Bryce Huff in the room should actually only further Mykel's production. You had Nick Bosa, and the good thing about this is now they can become more patient with Mykel. If Mykel's not ready to be a third down edge rusher, great. He never has to be now, or only on certain plays he has to be. Where now, if he's maybe kind of slowly coming along and is having a hard time, like he said himself, he has to develop that pass rush plan. If that's not working for him, he becomes that base down player. He can move to the inside, move some guards around, and free up space for Bryce Huff, where I think about this in Saleh's system. You want to utilize stunts now? You got two guys on the outside that can do that at a consistent basis, Bosa and Huff. Well, you have Mykel and Alfred Collins and company on the inside, just moving guards around and eating up space with those long arms they have.
Well, and on top of that, it's like, now you're not forcing Mykel to be like, okay, it's third down. You got to make an impact now. You got Bryce Huff to back him up. And then when you look at Bryce Huff's numbers, he was in 80, like you said earlier, he was in 82% of their third down snaps, which means that 82% of the time, the other team was throwing the football on third down because they had the number 3 ranked defense in the league back in 2023. So they were dominating, and it wasn't just because of Bryce Huff, but he was a major factor in why they had that third ranked defense in the league. So it goes to show you that when he's in the right situation, in the right scheme fit, he can make a major impact on the pass rush. And so let's hope that it'll stay true when he comes to San Francisco, and you're going to see him a lot on third down, where it's going to be third and long, or third and, what do they call it? A short long, where it's like 3rd and 6. But I would love to see the Niners in a lot more third and longs when they're on defense, as opposed to last season where, it was just first down, second down, first down. They just couldn't stop anybody.
Which was one of the kind of through lines, one of the main takeaways of their draft class was, we got to find good run defenders, Alfred Collins, CJ West, Mykel Williams, because we want to get teams into third and long. We want to make sure opposing offenses don't get third and short against us and have these elongated drives to our defense down. If you can create that stout front seven that can stop opposing offenses on first and second down and force teams into third and long. In a way, now you have the cleaner in Bryce Huff, accompanied by Nick Bosa and other guys out there, where this defense, which was maybe had some questions and certainly still does, but the picture becomes much more clearer. And one of the holes they had, it really isn't a hole anymore. Now, I think Tommy Huxley here in the comments on YouTube has a pretty good point. Stop the run and have some fun.
Yeah.
One thing Nick Bosa often said when they transitioned from DeMeco Ryans to Steve Wilkes to Nick Sorensen of like, we want to pin our ears back and just go. We don't want to, we don't want to run this, you're going to do this on this play. We want to just pin our ears back and get to the quarterback. And you saw a little bit more of that last year, but now you're really going to see that if they can get the run defense right. You're going to have Nick Bosa playing more free, getting big to the quarterback, pinning his ears back, and just going. CG Ruthless says, all gas, no brakes. You're going to get that motto again. You're going to feel that kind of swarm mentality of, all gas, no brakes. We're getting to the quarterback on third down, which was a major kind of a major kind of standout for those 2019, 2021, and 2022 defenses.
Let me say this. When you look back at like the 2019 Niners, who had that awesome defensive line, right? You had a line that had D Ford, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Nick Bosa, right? So now, fast forward to this coming season, you have the possibility of having Bryce Huff, Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, Nick Bosa. Those bodies are similar in length, height, dimensions. So are we going to get that type of pass rush that we had that year where it was basically like as soon as they dropped back, they were just inhaled by our defensive line? I think we will. I think we're going to see a huge improvement on the pass rush, especially if we go to that kind of formation. But when you look at the guys they brought in, CJ West, Alfred Collins, guys who can help, like you were saying, help stop the run. And then you still got guys like Jordan Elliott. You still got Evan Anderson. My question is that by bringing in Bryce Huff, does this spell the end for one of the Niners' defensive linemen because you can only carry so many? And if it's me, I would imagine somebody like Beal. This is it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because Saleh wasn't part of the team when they drafted Beal. He really hasn't found his footing at all. You can kind of put in maybe the comparison of Bryce Huff becomes what you wanted Drake Jackson to be for you, the speed, the hyper speed guy for you on the opposite side. Beal to me doesn't really have a place on the roster. He's not really a good special teamer. Doesn't really get many reps on defense. And just off top of my head here, you have Bosa, now Bryce Huff, you have Samo, you have Yetur Gross-Matos. I think Beal becomes your fifth edge rusher, which is not a bad place to be. No. Maybe you bring back Alex Barrett in some way. Like Beal to me, if that's your fifth guy, and maybe I'm forgetting somebody off the top of my head, but that's fine. Saleh and even DeMeco Ryans were never scared to carry like 13 defensive linemen. I forgot Mykel Williams. There you go. If Beal's your sixth edge rusher, that's even better. Like they have no problem carrying 13 defensive linemen. If you have 6 edge rushers and you have 6 to 7 guys on the interior, that's the depth you want. The way I view the edge rushing group is kind of how you view an MLB bullpen, where you want your great closer, your great setup guy, you want your middle relief dudes, you want your long relievers. Robert Beal kind of fits into that, 4A guy where you're like, in some games he's up in, AAA, and some games he's playing on the Major League Ball Club. I could see them cutting Robert Beal and bringing him back on the practice squad and whatnot. But if there obviously was someone to get cut, it'd be Beal. But they like to hoard those edge rushers, and rightfully so.
They do.
Because my mind goes back to 2021 when it was Bosa, Ebukam. They traded for Amenihu halfway through the year. They had Arden Key. They had Kerry Hyder. They had all these dudes, and you said, oh, my God, how deep can you be? they would probably carry 12 to 13 defensive linemen, and hopefully this year not carry 7 wide receivers for no reason. Looking at you, Ronnie Bell, because what the hell was that? But
like in the game against the Rams where he like basically batted down the pass instead of catching it. It was like, whoa, what are we doing?
He said, look, if I can't catch it, I want to play defense for the opposing team.
Dude, either one of us could have made that play. If they throw me the ball, I could have batted it down. Like, ah!
I hope
it would have been okay if we did that.
Ah!
But if you and I did that, all the fans would be like, well, what do you expect? But Ronnie Bell does that. You're like, come on, dude, catch the ball. That's your job. And look, 49ers faithful forever has a good point. He was talking about the 77.4 special teams grade is actually really good. He's talking about Robert Beal. He was good on special teams, but is this a guy that Brant Boyer wants on his special teams? Is it a guy like, hey, I covet this guy because he's good on special teams. Let's keep him around. One of the guys I question is Yetur Gross-Matos. The guy's still making a pretty penny of money. If he doesn't look impressive in training camp and preseason, I don't know. I mean, this could be a guy that maybe they part ways with. But I think at this point, you want to have as much depth as possible. My only concern is the amount of money he's getting paid. Is it something that they could look at and say, hey, you know what? Why don't we get rid of this guy and then we'll bring in another free agent who just got cut? Because at the end of preseason, everybody gets cut. And it's like a free-for-all on who teams can claim or which player just wants to go to the team, which is kind of annoying at times because I've seen players where I'm like, oh, I hope they get him, and then he goes sign somewhere else because he wanted to go there. It's like, But
it's funny because you mentioned cutting Yetur Gross-Matos, and a lot of people, including myself, were kind of saying like, hey, Jadeveon Clowney's out there. Would you bring him in? And I'll ask you this. Would you rather have Jadeveon Clowney or Bryce Huff? Because I think they're pretty comparable, different players, mind you, but maybe the expectations as to what they would have brought to the roster, where it's like, you're not going to be playing over Mykel Williams on a consistent basis, but be that third guy for us. And I think, again, they're very different players and they give you different skill sets. I think Clowney is a more well-rounded player compared to Bryce Huff, but would you rather have Bryce Huff or Jadeveon Clowney as a May 30th acquisition for this Niners defense?
Looking at the two of them, 6'3", 255. What is he? What is Clowney? What's his size? It's not showing me that. Why wouldn't it show me that? It's kind of weird. And he's a former number 1 overall pick in Jadeveon Clowney. I think he's been kind of a disappointment his whole career. I think he's just been a pretty good defensive end, not a dominant one when coming out of NC State. I would rather have Bryce Huff. I think Huff is more of a speed rusher, which we need, and I think he fits the mold similar to what we had in D Ford. He's all Clowney, not Clooney.
I mean, if it was George Clooney, hey.
Yeah, you never know.
He's getting loads of Batman questions from me, like, what the hell happened in Batman and Robin, brother? That was terrible. Oh, God. But out of the two of them, I would rather have Bryce Huff. And plus, he has already played with Robert Saleh. They have that cohesion, that trust, and he fits the system. So I think he'll find success here in San Francisco. If he doesn't, well, we'll make sure to blow him up.
Oh, it's such a clutch pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom, too. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Save up to 50% with minimum purchase at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Blow him up?
No, I'm saying, like, if he
literally kill him.
No. You said that. Now we're gonna get shadow banned.
We're gonna get demonetized right now.
Yeah, demonetized.
We're kidding. You two.
We're kidding.
We're gonna give him a big old hug. We're not gonna kill him. I swear.
The other day, someone was talking about Nick Martin, and I forgot what account it was. Was like, mark my words, Nick Martin is gonna be our starting linebacker next to Fred Warner. I'm done with D. Winters. And then I posted a post saying D. Winters reading this post, and it showed a guy like, oh, man, come on, man. And then D. Winters liked it.
Oh, that's great.
I was like, oh, no.
That was like
awesome.
That was like Malik Mustafa liking that video of the I forgot who it was. I think it may have been like Sad Nighter fan being like, I forgot he tore his ACL. Like, what the heck? And it was Drewski with the white face on. It was like, dude, like, what the heck is going on?
It's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
If you're on X or Twitter, players can see what you do. And
Yes.
they'll comment and they will respond or they'll just block you. And it's like, then you won't have access to your favorite players anymore. But usually Niner players take it in stride. Getting back to Bryce Huff for 1 second, because I do think it's important to say that I don't think this is a home run move, but I do think it does bring home some runs for San Francisco, if that can make some sense, where I think Mykel is a double or a triple that can turn into a home run for you, to use a baseball analogy. I think Bryce Huff brings home some runs for you, makes your roster much more well-rounded. He fits exactly what you want to do, makes you more dangerous, and that's really what's important. You know, San Francisco had a really depleted defensive line last year coming into this season. Everyone was like, what's going on? What's the plan here? This is a really important lesson to learn, that sometimes when it seems crazy and chaotic, maybe you just got to be a little patient with Jed York and Parag and John Lynch and Kyle, because maybe there is a plan in place to actually make this defense a heck of a lot better than it was last year.
I mean, this makes it their defense a heck of a lot better. I'll tell you that, having Huff in the on the roster. And no, I mean, to me, this is a home run. This is an absolute home run. I love the acquisition. I love what he brings to the table. I love the fact that you have a premier pass rusher on the roster. And this is not like a Randy Gregory acquisition where you're like, well, he was good a couple of years ago, and it's been all right.
Just not for us.
Exactly, and I also don't think this is like a Chase Young move. I think really this is like a move, like a D Ford move, where you got a guy who fits a certain role on your team. He's that speed rusher on third down, and I think he's going to make a huge difference. The problem with Chase Young, or I should say one of the problems is that once, what's his name, once our other defensive end got hurt and he had to play almost every down, you could tell
Clelin Ferrell.
Yeah. When Clelin Ferrell went down, who was drafted like number 4 overall, like what? Once he went, the Raiders and Mike Mayock, what the hell? But once he went down, it was like, wait a minute. I could tell Chase Young isn't used to playing this many downs, because you can see on second down, he was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Get quarterback. Get quarterback.
We're on first and second down against the Lions and Packers. He was like, I don't know how to play run defense.
No, he was just
the
like,
effort's not there. He gets tired. And I do think that this move, pairing Mykel with Bryce Huff opposite Bosa, gives you like one player just kind of broken into two.
Yeah.
And it also hopefully saves Mykel against the rookie wall. Because if you want to win this year, you want to be competitive and go maybe do a Super Bowl. I know it sounds far-fetched, but it could certainly happen. You got to have that guy healthy in the playoffs as your base down player.
Absolutely.
There is, before we go, one maybe drawback to this move, although I do think it is a very low-risk, high-reward move for San Francisco. Bryce Huff has really only had one truly good season. That was in 2023 with the Jets. He wasn't great the other 4 years, 3 of those being in New York, and then the other one being in Philadelphia last season. There is a chance he is a bust and this doesn't work out. But if anything, to me, Dre, he becomes a capable third down pass rushing specialist, and at worst, another debt piece for them, which they already needed. And you don't mind paying $8 million for 1 year of you hope to become the best edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa since 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a game changer for move, in my opinion, and it makes the Niners that much better going into the 2025 season. I am so freaking excited to see this Niner team take the field in 2025. They're going to be far more competitive, more athletic, younger, faster. It's going to be great. And between Clelin Ferrell and Solomon Thomas, I think Solomon Thomas was the worst pick.
They both stink. How about that?
They both stink.
They both stink. But with that said, you brought up you can't wait to watch this team play. And I'll tell you this, if you want to watch this team play live, you got to go to SeatGeek.com and use that promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Dre, if you could, tell us where we can find you on whether it's podcasting platforms or social media, and maybe even on YouTube.
Yeah, you can find me over on YouTube at Dre Area Sports. You can find me on X over at Dre Area Sports as well. And you can find me on Instagram as well. I'm not on Facebook yet. I don't know. I don't like Facebook.
Meta. Gotta get on Meta.
Meta. Where have I been? MySpace.
Threads. Come on.
But like I said, like, share, subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I post videos daily, and I oftentimes collaborate with this guy right here in Sterling Bennett, one of the best on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to Sterling Bennett, I don't know what you guys are watching, what you guys are doing, but this is the guy. So definitely check that out. And like I said, follow me on Instagram, on X. I have memberships on my website, Patreon, whatever you want to do to help support.
MySpace.
MySpace. Yeah, my face. But yeah, check it out on YouTube, Dre Area Sports.
Well, you can go subscribe to Dre on YouTube and follow him on social media. You can also follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram, 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. And you don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Leave us that 5-star audio podcasting review. Tell us down below, do you like the Bryce Huff acquisition? Are you in? Are you out? Are you saying it's not that great? Or are you saying it's all gas, no brakes? This is a great move for San Francisco's defense. Tell us down below as Dre flexes in the camera. I'll do it with him as well. But with that said, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Leave the 5-star audio podcast review. Thank you to every single person in the YouTube chat. And until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett. This has been 49ers Access. And as always, stay faithful.